when Nico Rosberg dared to claim that Hamilton is being intentionally sidelined by Ferrari insiders who favor Leclerc, the motorsport world laughed, at first. But after months of cryptic telemetry, radio silence, and puzzling strategic calls, who's laughing now? Rosberg may have exposed what fans feared all along. That behind Ferrari's red curtain lies a silent agenda designed to protect one driver and quietly sabotage the other. If Hamilton, one of the sport's most decorated figures, is not safe from internal politics, then no one is. Is Ferrari building a championship-winning car, or a narrative that leaves its greatest weapon deliberately dulled? In a moment that caught fans and analysts completely off guard, Nico Rosberg has reignited his old rivalry with Luis Hamilton. Not on the track, but through words that have left the Ferrari garage on edge. During a recent media appearance, Rosberg, who won the World Championship in 2016 after a tense season battling Hamilton as teammates at Mercedes, made a series of bold statements regarding Hamilton's current position within Ferrari. Without directly naming names, Rosberg hinted at internal favoritism, unequal access to critical car data, and even questioned whether Hamilton is being strategically isolated by key decision-makers. These claims have not only shocked fans, but have also reopened old wounds from a rivalry that many thought had been buried under years of retirement and respectful distance. According to Rosberg, the issue is not just performance-related. It is personal, political, and deliberate. His comments are already generating waves across the Formula Uno community, raising serious questions about the integrity of Ferrari's team dynamics and sparking rumors that go far beyond what happens on the racetrack. What makes Nico Rosberg's remarks even more explosive is the timing. With Luis Hamilton still adapting to his relatively new environment at Ferrari, the team has been under growing scrutiny for what many interpret as subtle but consistent signals of preferential treatment towards Leclerc. Rosberg emphasized this by pointing out a pattern that, according to him, cannot be dismissed as coincidence. He referenced multiple incidents in recent months where Hamilton's car setup appeared to be compromised or less optimized compared to his teammates, raising eyebrows among engineers and journalists alike. More controversially, Rosberg questioned the motivations behind these choices, suggesting that Ferrari's leadership may be more interested in preserving the public image of their longtime golden boy than supporting their newest high-profile acquisition. While Hamilton has maintained a characteristically diplomatic stance in public, sources close to the team have reportedly noted growing frustration behind the scenes. Rosberg went even further, warning that if these imbalances continue, Ferrari risks wasting the most talented driver of this generation, due to internal politics rather than technical limitations. Delving deeper into his critique, Nico Rosberg also touched on the often overlooked influence of the engineering staff within Ferrari. He described how, during his own time in Formula Uno, the subtle preferences of mechanics and data analysts could have a profound impact on a driver's performance, even without open sabotage. According to Rosberg, the bond between a driver and his race engineer is sacred, and when that trust is broken or weakened by internal allegiances, the psychological toll becomes just as damaging as any mechanical failure. He hinted that Luis Hamilton might be experiencing this very issue. Citing recent team radio recordings and body language during debriefs, Rosberg noted an unusual stiffness in the communication between Hamilton and his crew, an observation echoed by several former drivers turned commentators. The suggestion is that some team members may still be emotionally invested in Leclerc, subtly prioritizing his feedback and preferences during car development. If true, this would mean that Hamilton is not only battling his competitors, but also a cultural inertia within the team, one that resists change, even when a 7-time world champion walks through their doors. Adding to the controversy, Nico Rosberg did not shy away from exposing what he described as a deep-rooted hierarchy within Ferrari that favors legacy over merit. He argued that Luis Hamilton's arrival, although celebrated publicly, may have disrupted a delicate internal balance built around Leclerc's long-standing presence. According to Rosberg, many within the factory and the engineering office still view Leclerc as the symbolic future of Ferrari, making it politically difficult to fully embrace an outsider, no matter how accomplished. This sentiment, he claimed, has affected everything from car upgrades to strategic decisions and testing. Rosberg pointed out that during recent simulator sessions and data reviews, Hamilton's feedback was reportedly shelved or overridden in favor of Leclerc's input, even when Hamilton's telemetry demonstrated clearer gains. The implication is damning. If the engineers and decision-makers are choosing allegiance over performance, then Ferrari is not just mismanaging its resources, it is actively undermining its chances of success. Rosberg's words sent shockwaves through the paddock, as few expected such direct criticism from someone with insider understanding of how elite teams operate behind closed doors. But perhaps the most controversial part of Nico Rosberg's statement came when he hinted at an even more unsettling possibility. that certain engineers may be deliberately assigning less optimal components to Luis Hamilton, reserving the newest or most refined upgrades for Leclerc. Rosberg was careful not to accuse anyone outright, but he referenced a pattern that has emerged in recent technical debriefs and part allocations, suggesting that Hamilton had been testing slightly heavier or older spec parts during private testing sessions, while Leclerc consistently received the lighter, more responsive alternatives. He also cited differences in tire degradation rates and brake balance inconsistencies that, according to him, do not line up with what the data should be showing if both cars were truly equal. This sparked immediate debate among analysts and fans alike, with some defending Ferrari's internal procedures while others began scrutinizing telemetry data and footage from recent testing. If what Rosberg implied is accurate, it would not just be a question of favoritism, it would be a betrayal of sporting integrity. For a driver like Luis Hamilton, who has built his legacy on transparency and equal competition, being treated as a secondary figure within a team that brought him in to lead would be nothing short of humiliating. The implications of Nico Rosberg's words extend far beyond a mere internal rivalry. They touch the very foundations of team dynamics and professional ethics in the world of elite motorsport. If a figure of Rosberg's stature is willing to voice these suspicions publicly, it is a sign that the issues inside Ferrari might be deeper than anyone previously thought. Several former engineers and insiders, speaking anonymously, have since come forward to corroborate some of Rosberg's claims. One technician, who worked closely with Ferrari's chassis development team during the winter testing phase, confirmed that there was a noticeable discrepancy in how data was interpreted based on which driver provided it. According to him, Leclerc's feedback was routinely fast-tracked into development tweaks, while Hamilton's input was often subjected to additional validation, delaying its application or dismissing it entirely. Another source mentioned the tension in team briefings, where Hamilton would often raise questions about aerodynamic performance and engine mapping, only to be met with vague responses or deflections. What Rosberg touched upon, then, is not just a matter of who gets the better car parts. It is a systemic issue of trust, transparency, and internal politics. For a team as storied as Ferrari, such a revelation threatens to tarnish the image it has carefully cultivated over decades. And for Luis Hamilton, the man many expected to lead Ferrari into a new era, it raises the painful question: was he brought in as a true contender, or just a symbol? What makes Nico Rosberg's statements even more explosive is not just the content, but the timing. Coming at a moment when Ferrari is under heightened scrutiny for their internal structure, Rosberg's commentary has ignited debates among former drivers, team principals, and analysts alike. Several voices in the paddock, including those with deep ties to Maranello, have described a growing two-tier culture within the team, one that prioritizes Leclerc's aspirations while treating Hamilton as a temporary guest, despite his legendary status. The implications are massive. Imagine a scenario where Hamilton, the most successful driver in the history of the sport, is being systematically sidelined not due to lack of skill, but because the institution he joined refuses to fully embrace him. According to reports, certain upgrades, like the much-anticipated rear suspension overhaul, were first implemented on Leclerc's car during simulation phases, while Hamilton's version underwent an additional delay under the guise of calibration discrepancies. This kind of internal favoritism, subtle but consistent, gradually erodes morale. It sends a message not just to Hamilton, but to the entire team. Some voices matter more than others. Rosberg's suggestion that this marginalization is not accidental, but deliberate has forced fans and commentators to confront an uncomfortable truth. Perhaps Ferrari's most pressing problem is not aerodynamic drag or tire degradation. It is an unwillingness to treat its two drivers with equal conviction. And as Hamilton continues to endure this reality, the world watches and wonders how much longer he will tolerate it before making a decision that could reshape the grid entirely. The most provocative question now looms. Did Nico Rosberg merely state what everyone else was too afraid to say out loud? His claim that Hamilton's experience and stature are being actively undervalued within Ferrari has sparked a wave of analysis across media and fan forums. But beyond headlines and hot takes, this could mark the beginning of a deeper fracture within the Scuderia. Internally, sources suggest that the engineering team is now split, some defending Hamilton's perspective and advocating for transparency in performance data, while others continue to operate in a shadow of loyalty toward Leclerc. This silent war behind closed doors threatens to undermine the effectiveness of Ferrari's overall operation. If a driver of Hamilton's caliber senses manipulation or sabotage, even at a subtle level, trust deteriorates. Trust is not a luxury in Formula One. It is a cornerstone. And once broken, no upgrade, no telemetry, no podium finish can repair it. Now, with Rosberg drawing the curtain back, the media storm has intensified, not only questioning Ferrari's priorities, but also hinting at possible consequences for the rest of the season. Will Hamilton continue to fight from within, trying to reshape a culture that might not be ready to change? Or will this be the catalyst that prompts him to seek a final, unexpected move elsewhere? Whatever the outcome, Nico Rosberg has ensured that this story will not fade quietly, and the ripple effects of his words may very well outlast the championship itself.